Hi, welcome everyone. This is our panel event in our Peace Week. Amazing turnout. Thank you to everyone that's come. Before we start, I'm going to say a few things. There's going to be photography. If anyone doesn't want this posted, then just tell us at the end. Have to say some thank yous. Rebecca from Student Union has been incredible. I know she's here. I don't know where she is, but it's been amazing. Both of them have been so helpful in coordinating this event. It's been amazing. Thank you both as well. And also, Jsoc team, been amazing. Right, I hope everyone has a thought-provoking, meaningful debate. Over to Josh.
Hi guys, my name is Josh and I'll be chairing tonight. It's fantastic to see such a diverse group of people here. We hope it's going to be a fantastic, really engaging and acceptable night. I'm now going to introduce the panelists. So, on your left over here we have Jonathan Paris. Jonathan is a London-based Middle East policy and security analyst. He is currently senior advisor with the Jsoc Group and an associate fellow of the Global Diplomatic Forum in London. He is a Middle East Fellow at the Council of Foreign Relations in New York from 1995 to 2000, and he focused on the Middle East peace process and helped organise the 4 MENA economic summits in Casablanca, Amman, Cairo and Doha. After moving to London in 2001, he has been consulting mainly for the US government. Since 2008, he has prepared over a dozen reports on the Middle East, focusing on how Israel views its regional challenges and opportunity. On the far right over there we have, in terms of position, not necessarily politics, we have Amos Schonfield. He is a youth and student outreach worker from Jsoc, which is a non-governmental organisation based in the United Kingdom. Amos studied international relations at the University of Leeds and is a graduate of the Noam Resorti Youth, where he led Israel tour and was eventually Mazkir, which is national director. Here we have Zalmi Undorfer in the middle, who is a private businessman as well as a common TV panellist and commentator, and also advocates for Israel through his writings. He is the chairman of the Likud Harut Group UK, an organisation who were instrumental in the struggles to free Soviet Jews and were at the forefront of that campaign. As I just come in. So the way this panel will work is as follows. I will give each of the panellists an open question, to which they will have a few minutes to answer. Panellists may then have a minute each to reply, should they need to, for these questions. Following questions by me, we'll have the exact same rules. Following the general discussion, the audience will then have the opportunity to ask questions related to the topics discussed. As chair, I will be guiding the conversation to follow up on these myself, as well as to keep the debate on topic. Now, to remind everyone, the topic of the debate is the two-state solution dead? And I'm now going to sit down and ask the first question, which is, I'm going to go with Amos first. What is your route onto this panel in terms of how you've got here, your life path in advocacy, journalism and politics, and is the two-state solution the end to the conflict? Amos.
Good evening. I'm going to stand only for this first question because you can then see my face and you'll have to deal with the fact you're in the back later on. First, thank you very much for having me. I'm aware, yes, this has broken the rule that I like to stick to of not having an all-male panel. I'm really sorry. In order to sort of make myself feel better about this, a lot of what I'm saying is inspired by amazing women, people like Jill Jacobs, Lara Friedman, Stav Shafir, organisations like Women Wage Peace and Mahson Watch. Check them all out. They're fantastic. They're much more intelligent than me. My route onto this panel is rather typical of someone of my position. I am a Northwest London Jew, a survivor of JFS, someone who went through my youth movement, spent 11 years in my youth movement, went to Ross Group University. For me, I'm part of the 71% of British Jews who believe the two-state solution is the most viable source of peace between the Israelis and the Palestinians. For me, we need to work and advocate towards that solution because it affects us all, what's happening there. You will know this by people who care about the issues on the ground. For me, my big sort of moment of change, and that also for my organisation Jsoc, the pro-Israel, pro-peace movement in the UK, it came about in around about 2008. I was just coming off Israel tour in 2008 when the kind of Israel I saw ahead of me changed dramatically. I was someone who used to go to Israel all the time and sort of stayed with my grandparents, my Israeli family. The Israel tour took me to all the highlights of Israel, and I fell in love. However, 6 months later, we had the first Gaza war. And that really changed my perspective on what happened. Because the Israel that I fell in love with was not the Israel I was seeing in the news. The Israel that I believed it was capable of being, one that was striving towards peace and justice and dignity for all, it was one that was on a different path. So for me and for Jsoc, the goal is simple. If we can mobilise, in Joc's case, British Jews, towards a two-state solution, towards a political resolution and a lasting resolution to the conflict, to the occupation, and to create a two-state solution, then we're doing something good. So in terms of whether the two-state solution is the end to the conflict, in all honesty, this is a no-brainer of a question. The two-state solution is the only game in town. It predates the state of Israel. The first time a two-state solution of sorts was advocated was in 1936, 1937, with the Peel Commission, and the international consensus hasn't shifted much since. It remains the position of the international community, and it remains the position there or thereabouts of Israelis and Palestinians. For the first time, less than half of Israelis and Palestinians said that they are advocating a two-state solution. It was a poll that went out in January 2018. Both Israelis and Palestinians, 46% advocate a two-state solution. That sounds like things are going the wrong way for someone like me. However, this isn't some kind of small game with like narrow margins. We're dealing with 46% against 10 or 12% who advocate for different solutions. Us standing here in Nottingham, we're not really ones to say any different. We can't stand against the vast plurality of Israelis and Palestinians who say the two-state solution is the only game in town. In reality, what we need to consider is what are the alternatives. A viable solution is one that for Israelis provides security and recognition, and for Palestinians provides justice and dignity. There's no other solution that manages to do all of that apart from the two-state solution. We've worked for decades with granular detail working out what a two-state solution will look like. And I look forward to, I presume, for the sake of there being some kind of disagreement, one of my panelists who will want to advocate something else to tell me in the same kind of granular detail what a different resolution would look like. So, in conclusion, thank you very much for having me. I look forward to some very interesting, respectful questions, and I'll hand over to my panelists.
Hi everybody, and thanks to the Nottingham University and Jsoc for hosting this amazing audience. First and foremost, I'm the son of an Auschwitz survivor, and I would say that this defines me personally as a person, and as a Jew, and as a Zionist, and it's the prism through which I view my Zionism and my relationship with the State of Israel. My people are an endangered species, even though they are 1/10 of 1% of the world's population. And the Holocaust from which my father emerged, although it didn't last very much long after that, is just the latest in a line of pogroms, inquisitions, Holocaust, obviously the second Holocaust of which is promised to us by Iran. Israel really, to me, and to many Jews, is a game reserve. After being mercilessly hunted, we need to have a safe place to be, because we can't trust the Europeans. There's enough Jewish blood soaked in the grounds of Europe to tell everybody that. So wherever it's been, we have a game reserve, and Israel is the place we have to protect as our security. After centuries of anti-Semitism, Israel is now the world's Jew. And the racists of today, the anti-Semites of today, hide their anti-Semitism by calling it some kind of a political statement against the state of Israel. We love the Jews, but it's the state of Israel that we have problems with. And sadly, they have far too many Jewish helpers in delegitimizing the only pluralistic and democracy that exists in the Middle East today. And this is what my organization, Likud Hirut, is all about. It's about fighting the dogma and the received wisdom with facts, and having basically a reality check. Someone once defined a conservative as a liberal who'd been mugged by reality. And reality is what I'm into.
Thank you very much, Jonathan.
Hi, my name is Jonathan Paris. As you can see, I'm an American. I come here as an analyst, but I'm struck by the audience. There's so many people here. I'm used to more of a seminar presentation, so I'll try to be as succinct as I can. I'm not in any one camp. I will say that just hearing the two previous speeches, I would say, with respect to Zalmi, I do also feel for the Holocaust and the lessons of the Holocaust, but I think for the Palestinians in the room, I think it's important to understand that they did not cause the Holocaust, and that for them, I don't want to be partisan, because I'm not, but for them in their daily lives, you know, it's the power relationship there is vastly different than the one that your family endured. And in particular, my own family, you know, we grew up very comfortably. I had a very comfortable childhood in America. When America was on the rise and the American Jewish community was on the rise, and we had a strong relationship with Israel. I went there when I was 13 and again when I was 16. Happened to be a war in between called the 67 War. But I suppose my views evolved after college and even further on. When the Oslo process began, I saw a huge opportunity to jump on it. I joined a group that worked very closely with Abu Ammar. Anybody know who Abu Ammar is in the audience? Abu Ammar? Yes, Yasser Arafat. We worked with Yasser Arafat on, we were an American group which had many Middle East members from Qatar, from Egypt, from Kuwait. And we, our group, in addition to Americans, we were trying to facilitate the peace process in a more global way to introduce economic cooperation. I worked with a group of Jordanian Palestinians, Egyptians, and Israelis to fast-track projects that brought real progress to the region in 1994, 95. Unfortunately, right in the middle of this what you call the MENA economic summits, those summits between 94 and 97, right in the middle, the most horrible thing happened. It was 1 week after the Amman summit, and we were in Kuwait, our delegation, and we got news that Jsoc Rabin was assassinated. So I would say that at that point, things pretty much went downhill. It went downhill in terms of the two-state solution. I think the two-state solution is in a coma right now. It's in a coma, but it's not dead yet because there isn't any other alternative. Or I should say the alternatives are much worse, and we'll get into that later on. So because it's in such a coma, there's not a lot to be optimistic about. I was very fortunate to be part of the Oslo process because it was a period until Rabin was assassinated of great optimism, and in particular, we had a chance, and I had a chance to interface not only with Arafat himself and with all the leaders of the Arab world, but with individual Palestinians. I should add that last night I was at a dinner that brought together British Jews and Palestinians. Some names you may know are Ahmed Khalidi and Hussein Aga. These are very prominent Palestinian intellectuals. And it was really nice to re-engage with them, because in the end we are people, and I think we can work these things out. But again, when it comes to the Arab-Israeli conflict, and in particular the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, I am very pessimistic right now. Thank you.
therefore, I'm now going to open it up to the panellists, should they have any replies to any of the comments made from their openers. So you have 1 minute each if you'd like to do that. Anyone?
I would just love to know what Zami proposes as a solution, because we never got to hear that.
I think we're going to get to that, so we'll delay that question for now. Is that all right? Okay, so the second question is, what is the biggest barrier to peace in the conflict? And I'm going to start with Amos again.
Lovely. For me, the biggest barrier to peace today is the occupation. It is a large amorphous beast that encompasses all sorts of different facets that make peace that much more unlikely. On the Israeli side, you have a growing indifference to anyone else's narrative, a growing belief that occupied territory, when I use the term occupied territory, I use it in the legal term, the idea of territory that you are holding onto as a temporary guardian rather than as a permanent owner. Occupied territory that in many cases is owned by someone else, using that as your own source of somewhere to live, somewhere to work, and preventing other people from doing the same. Unbridled settlement growth is something that makes not only creating a viable two-state solution, creating any viable solution more unlikely, but it is one that has the other primary effect that disturbs me, which is depriving Palestinians of the kind of rights and dignities that we afford to one another here in the UK or in Israel proper, for example. Palestinians, as a result of the laws of occupation, are subject to checkpoints. They're subject to having the Israeli Defense Force, which is not your own, not people you vote for, as your sovereign, and creates a situation in which hopelessness thrives. One of the things I'm most proud of right now in my organisation, Yachad, is that a group of 28 young people and 4 youth movements have launched a campaign saying "Don't settle for this," with regards to demolitions in Area C of the West Bank. For a Palestinian in Area C, there are 300,000 of them. 98.5% of your planning permission requests will be denied, which means you have 2 choices. Either you have to suck it up and deal with whatever building or lack thereof you have. Many Palestinians live in tents, especially in the Bedouin villages in Area C. Or you build illegally, and then your house is liable for demolition. There are tens of thousands of demolitions right now, demolition orders that are active today. That will never yield peace. If we want to be serious about peace, we need to be instigating policies that make peace that much more likely. With the occupation, there are policies that the Israeli government puts forward that makes peace that much more unlikely. And under the guise of a lack of hope and a lack of belief in the journey of peace, Palestinians will incite violence and support ideas of terrorism. If we are able to solve this one idea, which today has become all-encompassing, we are able to get ourselves that much further towards peace.
Thank you very much. Jonathan, what is the biggest barrier to peace?
It's a tough question. I think there's blame on both sides. I think on the Palestinian side, they seem to always reject the opportunity until it's too late, and then they look back and say, "Oh, I wish we had done that one." In particular, the Omer offer in 2008 was a very generous offer. Abbas rejected it. From the Israeli side, I think there's a very narrow-mindedness in misunderstanding the opportunity that Mahmoud Abbas represents. This is a man who condemns violence. And to not make a deal with a man who's committed, and he has remained committed to nonviolence, to continued security cooperation between Palestinian and Israeli security forces in the West Bank, is a real missed opportunity. I admit there's a lot to criticize Mahmoud Abbas, but I think in the days ahead, as we look toward the succession of Mahmoud Abbas, because it's clear that he is at the end of his life, we're going to look back. I think the Israelis are going to regret not having taken a more of a risk with this guy. Now, there are a lot of risks, okay? Security is a big risk these days in the West Bank and Gaza, but I think that given Israel's preponderant power, I think they can afford to take risks.
As part of the chair, I said I would call out on points of information, and can you truly stand up and say to the audience that Mahmoud Abbas is someone who condemns violence, when on national television he said that he welcomes all drops of Jewish blood spilled. But also, aside from that,